Hey guys, Max Convexity here. Let's take a look at these Defiance option strategies for tomorrow. We'll take a look at the profit boxes and see where we need to close to make profit tomorrow on all three of the Defiance funds. We'll also look at the fund TRES a little bit, and we can also look at some tracking error from the Yield Max funds and others. All right, let's do this first. Here's a chart of the Russell 2000. Russell had a nice day the other day and finished about 3/4 of the way through its profit box and had a win. They also had a win the day before that. Good job, Russell. There's tomorrow's profit box. And numerically speaking, these guys sold 480 options at the 1985 level. They got $13.29. You have to subtract $13.29 from 1985 to get 1971.71. So that's 1971 is their break-even level. 1985 would be max profit. Anything over 1985 would be max profit as well. They want to close, we want the Russell to close at 1985 or above. So these guys are going for $637,000, which would be a lot of money, the most they've got in more than a week. They earned 657 back here and 643 back here. We'll see if they can do it. They've been doing better, but they've still been doing bad. But they've been doing better. Yeah, this would be a 67 basis point capture, and it would bring the monthly, if they can do it, it'd bring the monthly total down to only a $1.8 million loss. All right, let's look at JEPY. JEPY sold the 4900 strike. Again, they also sold the same strike the other day and made a nice profit on it the other day. The other day, they sold the 4900 strike for $14.05. This time, they got $16.27. Nice job, guys. Nice job. So these managers are going for $375,000 or 33 basis points or 6 cents a share. That would be nice. We'll take it for sure. It'd bring the monthly total up on the earnings per share to 43 cents if they're able to capture it. All right. Let's look at the chart and see what the chart looks like. Well, you can see where they sold the same option again, but you can tell they got a little bit more for this option without even having the spreadsheet available, just by looking at the size of the profit box. That's why I make these, so you could see that the higher they're able to sell an option for, the more it increases their odds of a profit, because the bigger of an area it makes for there to be a profit in. All right, let's look over here at the triple QYs. These guys sold 159 puts at the 17,475 level, and they got $92. So 17,475 less $92 is 17,383, call it basically. Okay. All right, so we need a close on the NASDAQ between 17,383 and 17,475, preferably as close to 475 as possible, or over would work as well. These guys are going for, hang on here, I just figured something out. All right, these guys are, sorry about that. These guys are going for a $1.4 million profit, which would be a 53 basis point capture, or 10 cents a share, which would be real nice. At this point in the month, they've earned about 37 cents a share so far, and if they're successful tomorrow, it could take the total for the month to 46 cents, which would be just awesome, considering the way everything started off. Let's check the NDX out here, see what it looks like graphically. Other than the box being a little crooked, a little off kilter, you can see what it looks like. this big gap on this day between Tuesday's close and Wednesday's open has now been filled, meaning they've traded all the way back through it. So we'll see what happens now. Sometimes gaps act as support. So maybe now that they've tested it, if it doesn't go much lower, just assuming it doesn't go much lower, the next move possibly could be up. We shall see. But these guys have also been doing a lot better in the last half of the month than in the first week. The first week was disastrous. All right, how about let's look at some tracking error. All right, in the S&P industrial complex, the S&P high yield industrial complex, let's just say, the top performing stock was XYLD. Well, that's awesome. The S&P, the benchmark, was barely changed, down 7 bips is nothing. I will say this, JEPY and JEPY did outperform by a pretty good margin, but the big performer of the day was all XYLD, and the worst performer of the day was iSpy, just as far as NAV goes. It's just one day, though. Let's look at the NASDAQ stocks. On the NASDAQ stocks, the high yield stocks, the best performer was JEPQ. It's a pretty nice outperformance. The benchmark, the NASDAQ was down 0.5%, and JEPQ was basically unchanged, so that's 0.5% better. That's really good. QQQY also outperformed. Well, and I take that back, QYLD also outperformed. Actually, QYLD performed a little better than JEPQ. I just didn't catch it the first time. FEPI was the underperformer of the day. Let's look here. FEPI's benchmarking. FEPI is usually the outperformer. FEPI's benchmark was down 1.08 points. So this number is wrong. All right, but yes, FEPI. So FEPI actually outperformed on that basis. Good job, FEPI. I had a bad data point in there. So they all did pretty well. They all did pretty well. We'll take it. Now let's look over here at the Russell High Yield Complex. The best one of the day was IWMY. It performed better than RYLD. RYLD was perfectly in line with the benchmark. The benchmark is Russell 2000. IWMY outperformed it by a pretty decent margin, about 0.3%. Nice job. Now let's look down here to the single stocks. You can see we had a lot of green on the board. NASDAQ and NVIDIA both outperformed their benchmark. Coney was right in line. OARC, AMZ, Apley, and AMD outperformed by pretty nice margins. TSLP was right in line with its benchmark, which of course is Tesla. Tesla dropped 34 bips and TSLP dropped 32 bips, so we'll call that a tie. Then we have more winners: MRNY, MSFO, PP, FBY, and DISO all outperformed their benchmark. DISO had a really nice outperformance there, about a 283% outperformance. Just on a day-to-day basis, these numbers could vary quite a bit, but we still like to look at them, keep an eye on them. Infly has been on fire lately, and I guess Netflix has been on fire, but it cooled down. It underperformed. Sky underperformed, but it still performed pretty darn well. Made 2.8% the other day, but did underperform the benchmark. Showed some tracking error. GUI showed some definite signs of tracking error, and so did XOMO. All right, so what else were we going to look at here? Let's look at stock index futures and see where we're trading overseas and try to see how this thing's going to open up. Oh, that looks pretty darn neutral to me. The NASDAQ is basically unchanged. The S&P is basically unchanged, down 10 bips. Russell's down 12 bips. So we're just churning here tonight. We'll see where we open up in the morning. I'll be back at 8:30. As soon as the markets open, the NDX, the Russell, and the S&P, we'll see where they open in relation to where the profit box is so we can see how we're looking for the day. All right, guys. Thank you very much and have a great evening.